Host of Forged in Fire.
Kyle Mann.
I'm G. Warner Wallace.
Kira Davis.
This is Ben Adams.
Hey, this is Dave Baker.
Carrie Pomeroli.
This is Mike Reiner.
This is Ethan Nicole.
This is Leanne Morgan.
This is Graham Parker, the 5th GP, and this is why you should never.
How I got suckered in.
I'm so embarrassed that I'm here.
You're wasting your time. You got better things to do.
Never listen.
Those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. My name is Lucas Pinkert. I'm an actual pastor, and with me, as always, is a man whose mom is about to be reincarcerated for the verbal assault she gave me and my child for talking about her in this manner over and over and over again. It's Dan Flip Gibson.
Man, it sucks to get reincarcerated.
I think that's like the opposite of what the Hindu people think.
She came right at you, didn't she?
She did. She did. After she gave us a very nice gift, and she gave Levi a nice towel with Thor on it, and I opened it. We FaceTimed her and opened it, and she was very happy with that. And then she told me immediately, by the way,
quit telling everyone I'm in prison.
Tired of your crap. And boy, did she I believe they refer to that as a tongue lashing.
If someone gives you a gift and then tongue lashing, I think that's proper etiquette.
But she gave my child a gift, right? And we know that...
Yeah, but by de facto.
By de facto, a gift for a child is either a gift for that child or a gift for that child's mother. It has nothing to do with me.
I think it would at least mean that you don't have to write a thank you card.
Well, who are you, sir? Who is this?
You told me I could talk.
In between us. I love that response. You told me I could talk. On these sweet, clean airwaves today, Big Dan is a good friend of ours for the last several years. He's the host of, the Church Resource Podcast.
That's the one.
He is an impersonator who you've actually seen on these airwaves. He is also the man Spurgeon Speaks, and he's the producer for... I guess what would you call this show? It's like the Christian version of Frasier.
Sounds good in much longer form.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So it's the man, the mirth, the legend, Jeff Oliver. What's going on, Big Jeff?
Hey, good to be here. The program there that I produce is Hope in the Night.
Right.
Which
is different than Real Monsters, which is also a nighttime program. But that's about things that go bump in the night. Not hope. And you've been doing radio professionally because of your voices. That's correct?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
Best voice, man.
He's got the best pipes in the bit. I think second probably to Mike Reiner. Like, you have such a traditional radio voice.
Right.
And Mike Reiner's voice is traditional, get off my lawn. And I think that's what makes it so absolutely unique. So, Jeff, what brings you in today?
You asked me here.
That'll do it.
And I really never turn you down, so I'm just like, well, you must have an idea. Let's go.
So Jeff has asked us on several occasions over the course of the last week. Whenever we got him booked, we decided he's going to come in and do the show. He's like, what should I do to prepare? Should I be doing it? I was like, listen or watch all of our episodes so we get the views and downloads. And other than that, like, nothing.
Subscribe, give us a 5-star review.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Ding the little bell.
And bring some milk.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to get to this before we hop into this interview with Jeff.
Yeah.
What do you mean that, like, sometimes you have... Y'all are just jumping into a straight off-air conversation. What do you mean you have a milk?
Just sometimes you want some milk, and so you go have a milk.
But you say you only have a milk when... What?
When there's one in the refrigerator.
Okay. So, like, what does it mean to have a milk in the refrigerator?
I picture like a juice box.
Yeah, that's kind of like one of those suck bags is all just like ready with milk in it.
That would be weird.
Any more weird than having a milk?
Much less weird is taking a swig out of a gallon of milk.
Okay, so
that's putting it right back in the fridge. That to me is what having a milk is.
Okay, so you only have a milk when it's in the fridge?
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like the big, like, definitive statement that you made it. Like, I'll only drink milk when we have it in our home. Like, that doesn't... It no longer sounds like it's this, like, I'll only have a milk when it's in the fridge. Like, does that mean, like, Heather has to, like, pre-pour you, like, tiny glasses of milk?
Heather has nothing to do with this. In fact, it's better if she doesn't, because when I drink it directly out of the carton, she's not going to like it.
Okay, that's true.
Of course.
Yeah. So you will only drink milk at your home when
it's
it's already at your home.
Yeah.
You won't.
I don't go buy milk.
I would also think even if you went to go buy milk, you could only have a milk in the fridge if it was already in your home. Will you have a milk at somebody else's house?
If I can drink it right out of the carton.
So you will have a milk at your mom's place, but not like at Mr. Oliver's.
It would not be
abode.
socially acceptable to do it anywhere else other than my house, which is why I only have a milk at my house.
Do you ever have an orange juice?
Yeah, oh, yeah. And a Dr. Pepper and...
So Dr. Pepper
Anything
makes,
that comes
are
in
you
a
talking
giant-
about like you drink straight out of the 2-liter of Dr.
Yes.
Pepper?
Yeah.
So just don't drink anything at his house,
No
basically.
kidding. Like unless it comes in like it's canned or it's a Capri Sun.
Yeah, if it's sealed, it's safe.
If it's sealed, it's safe.
Yep.
I think it's the use of
The more you know. If it's sealed, it's safe. That sounds like a campaign that would have been good for a lot of our friends in high
If
school.
it's sealed, I did not get to it first.
Okay.
You can know that for sure.
Well, now that we know that Danley has had a milk, we're gonna talk to we're gonna talk to the guy. The reason that we're here today, and that's to talk to Jeff. So you produce.
I'm going to need to have a coffee.
You're gonna need to have a coffee.
And
even
then first,
though-
I'm going to need you to read this.
right, yeah,
I
so-
have some cards that I love your voice so much that I want people to hear things occasionally. So
You just want people to hear things occasionally, or you want people to hear things occasionally in his voice the same way you have a milk?
I have
only in
lines
certain-
that I've heard you read already,
Okay.
and I want to hear this one right now.
Now this
and
is
then we can
this
continue.
is really like it kind of y'all are geeking out about this, but I hear
About
voices
what?
about this guy and his voice, but you're talking about me, and I'm like, really? They're talking about me because
We are.
because there are
That's why we
voices
had
that
you
I
here.
hear, and I think, oh, that guy.
Like who?
You have the voice of the Storm Father.
Well, there's
Yeah, kind of.
there's Morgan.
Dalinar.
There's kind of the classics to me anyway. There's Morgan Freeman and there's James Earl Jones.
yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and some I'll just hear.
Name somebody who's got a great voice that's under the age of 60.
Don't know if I can.
Right? Jeff Oliver. That's it.
But
Because Mike Reiner's not under the age of 60.
But that turns out to be a negative now because now in advertising and all the voiceover stuff is that they want people to be relatable. They want people to be, not have that announcer voice that sounds like a car salesman or a car commercial.
Right.
But they want somebody to be, be their friend.
Is that why Will Arnett is now the voice of GMC? Like it is.
Right.
He's like, GMC trucks. And I'm like, why is Lego Batman talking to me about buying a truck?
Alfred, buy me a GMC.
This comes with lobster thermidor.
Okay, if you
Right,
would.
so I've not turned
Yeah.
the card over yet.
Yeah.
No,
Is
go
it
ahead.
like a-
Yeah, go
okay.
ahead. Go ahead and go for it.
No.
And I'm sorry for my terrible spelling.
All right. And this is just, you want me to read it? Just give it
Yeah,
whatever.
these are already
Straight.
things Dan has heard in
Straight.
his head
Yep.
you say.
I already know how you say it. I just
Yeah.
want to hear.
And please read it straight.
All right. Well, as opposed to whatever else it could be.
Yeah.
But I was going to give it a little bit of
Give it
kind
some
of a flair.
give it
you
some
don't want to
gusto.
give it some flair, but not too much sass.
Got
Yeah.
it.
Yes.
Got it. I really don't do sass very often.
Yeah, we don't need you to read it as a sassy pirate.
Right. I may sound like a gentle giant, but I'm really a mouse trapped in a human body. Like that?
That was
Yeah,
good.
that's perfect. So, as a mouse trapped in a human
I got
body,
nothing
Jeffrey.
from Camden. I got nothing from Camden.
No, Camden right now, because he's gotten used to being on this side of the table, Camden's getting a little cocky. And so when he's in the control room, he's spending a lot of time on his smart device.
Oh.
Anytime we look up, Camden's in there watching Strong Bad videos instead of paying attention to what's happening over
Here's
here.
your next one.
in
Currently,
our
I'm
neck of
actually
the woods.
texting my
Okay.
mom.
You don't have to do that right
Oh,
now.
yeah. Well, hello, Mrs. Hernandez.
She actually goes by Miss Mindy.
Well,
All right. So
strike one to me. Okay, so how long have you been working for?
I gave him another card.
How long have you been working for Hope in the Night?
For 3 years.
And talk to us a little bit about like what that program is.
So it's people call in, and I'm the first line that people call an 800 number. They will talk to me first, and the purpose is for people to, whatever they're going through in life, and they're going to be able to call this number and talk, eventually get set up to talk with the host on the program about whatever it is in their life, and the conversation is an hour long. So they get good dedicated time. It's not like the Fraser Crane model.
Yeah, or the old like Dr. Laura model where it's like, all right, let me solve your problem in 5 minutes.
Stop doing that. Next.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, if it hurts when you hit yourself, stop hitting yourself.
That's right.
Right, kind of stuff. So she spends an entire hour with the person who
Really care
who
for
calls
somebody.
in.
Yeah, people told her early on you need to handle 10 to 12 calls an hour.
Oh, good grief.
And they're thinking pop radio,
Right.
4 or 5 minutes. And she said, I can't care for somebody and really tend to them in that amount of time. They said, well, it's never going to work. And so 27 years later, she's still doing the program that way.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty awesome. And she's the host of the show has written several books on her own about a lot of different topics. And your degree is in biblical counseling, correct?
Right.
So how have you, as a biblical counselor who's been like producing this show, how have you seen maybe your views change on like where the brokenness is kind of within the world, I guess, right now?
Yeah, good question, because I really have seen that. Yeah. You've hit on that, because I know that when I started there are several schools of what we call Christian counseling, right? And
sure.
And then I was trained under and would still prefer what is called true biblical counseling, taking whatever thing is presented here that I'm going through in my life, and I said, okay, so I know a passage that deals with that. Let's walk through that together. Right,
Yeah.
And we're going to go kind of point by point. But what my style was, or my approach, or whatever, before sitting with June Hunt for 3 years is more like the Dr. Laura style of it, or more like there's a skit with Bob Newhart, where it's just called "Stop It."
Yeah,
Just, right?
yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
I used to love that. I think, well, that's a good model. Let's do it.
What was that on?
It's Mad TV.
Okay.
Yeah, so $1 a minute. It's never more than $5. I don't give change.
Yeah,
right?
I remember.
yeah.
I remember that. Was so good.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And so that was my kind of thought a lot of times is, well, this guy just needs to stop what he's doing.
Right.
But softened a lot more and understood that, man, there's a lot of baggage that people come with into almost any relationship and any discussion they have, and it's there's a lot more depth. There's a lot more that probably needs to be unpacked and that needs to be redeemed for what is what's going to give them real help.
Go ahead and read the next card.
I feel so dumb now. These thoughtful questions. Go ahead.
That's why I went with a
questions
thoughtful
and
question,
discussions.
because now I want
Thoughtful answer, and then go ahead.
So this is like just back and forth, like step on the brakes and then we'll hit the accelerator.
Well, only if you allow it to be that. As a radio professional, we would like for you to not hit the brakes and the accelerator, but just show us what a smooth transition and segue would
do this
be.
one instead. That one's no good.
All right.
You gonna come back to that one later?
Yeah.
I am all about that bass.
All right. So
I can do that lower. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
I would love to.
I am all about that bass.
That was much better.
No trouble in there.
Yeah, none,
No trouble.
none at all. And I would tell Camden to take some of that out, but he's still texting his mom.
No, I'm not. And there's a camera here to prove it.
Nobody will see that camera because I edit the episodes. So, so you talk about the way that like your thoughts, especially about like biblical counseling and things like that, have shifted over the course of your time on the show. Where do you see, from the calls that you get, do you see that there are a lot of people calling in with similar issues? Like somebody heard something like I came out of a relationship that was abusive, and so are you like for the next week kind of inundated with calls from people who experience the same thing, or are you finding that like, okay, so we did this one on people who came out of abusive relationships, and now those calls kind of slow down because people got the answer to their questions, and now we're getting another batch of calls? What's that like?
No, it always picks up. One call breeds another similar type of call that people who call in with childhood sexual abuse will, somebody will hear, and it'll be just different enough. Then they'll say, well, I have to hear, what she would say about my situation, because that was with, a family member, or because it was whatever it was that seems different enough that they want to hear more but hear it from their perspective and hear
Gotcha.
it specifically answer their questions. And one that really leads to similar programs is that when people are dealing with, I won't say spiritual abuse, that's not right, with spiritual warfare.
Okay.
As people talk about, they'll hear June, and she does a great job of going through, well, did you ever, were you ever exposed to this kind of, maybe something as serious as a satanic ritual, maybe something as what seems mundane but can still let in, those bad spirits of a Ouija board or something like that. So what kind of experiences did you have? And they want to say, well, hey, I need to talk to you about this because we saw, I remember one program that we saw light orbs dancing around in my garage, and she and her friend, both saw it, and your eyes just got huge.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. It sounds
you
like
saw what?
I perked up.
It sounds like the Gurdon Light, over in old Gurdon, Arkansas, where
Orbs of light.
where
huh?
Dr. Trey Talley is from. There's a couple of these kind of situations where there's like provable weird anomalies that are like that. Yeah.
Right. But also with that, she said that when they noticed that they would have Christian music on in the background, and the
Toby
orbs,
Mac?
the orbs, the orbs could hear, or the garage could hear the sound there of that Christian music, the orbs would settle down. If they didn't have that, if they weren't prayed up or whatever, they were kind of going everywhere.
Weird.
But then
So the Fireflies don't like Christian music either because they were like, this is lame, and just like stopped their party.
that's right.
Okay, so like, how do you respond to?
I've
guess,
never heard of anything like that.
Yeah, no,
so
that's totally outside my realm of comfort. We need Russell Crowe and the rest of the Pope's exorcists to come in.
Yeah.
So when
we just showed Kale Paranormal Activity.
oh, did you? And how did that go? Did he have a nice milk afterwards? Like what?
He did not. He didn't love it.
Yeah,
And then he liked the
imagine.
second one.
Okay, but I've never seen him.
They're cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
So when you have a call that's like this, right? Do you find that there are others that, or you said that there are others that call in that are like this? One of the things, and this is just probably a terrible admission on my part. One of the things that I have found a lot of pleasure in doing over the years are, I believe we'd refer to them as crank calls. Right, where like you hear something and somebody's addressing the same topic over and over, and if you think you're likely to get on the air on a radio show,
right.
then you're like, no, I'm going to call and say this and just kind of see what happens and make something up. How do you weed that out? Because there has to be, and this was kind of a trope on Frasier's show, is that there was a caller that came in that had a bunch of fake issues that they were making up because they just wanted the airtime.
Yeah.
Do you find that there are people that like, all right, so we've dealt with this kind of problem a couple of nights in a row, or you talk to somebody and you're like, I recognize this number. Like a week ago, they were claiming one thing, and now there's something else eccentric. Like, how do you weed those people out?
Well, that's one reason we do the process the way we do. I can schedule those out, so if it seems like one topic's going to be lumped up, I can say, okay, you're 2 weeks from now, or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
But also, I talk to them a long time. They don't. It's not like, hey, caller, what are you talking about? You're on.
Okay.
They're talking to me, and sometimes people will just unload when they are able to do that, and when I can tell that it's something they haven't talked to anybody about probably ever. It'll be an hour and a half where it's mostly them talking. I mean, I'll say a few words and just kind of.
And this is before you guys do your hour on air?
This is before, yeah.
So you get like this 90-minute download
yeah.
before they ever talk to June.
Yeah, and then I talk to her as host and say, look, this is what what we talked about, and here's some of the things that they're going to be concerned. But this is how we whittled down their question. Here's the main question they have, right?
That's what I was going to ask. Do they get it? Do they do better on the second run through, having a chance to say it out loud to somebody?
Sometimes new information will come up, and it just happened the other night. The woman said that. Let me think how that went. She said, well, I was married, and then we were married 10 years, and something happened, and then I met this other guy, and we had a baby right away, and so she gets on the program. I had made some assumptions, obviously. She gets on the program, and she tells June, well, I've been married to this guy for 10 years. He had a stroke, and then I went and had an affair on him, and then I came back, and I'm that guy's caretaker. Wait a minute. I missed the fact that you're not divorced.
Yeah.
Wow.
Right? So kind of a big thing, but she just didn't tell it to me. I don't think she was trying to withhold anything, but
Yeah, and then Jesus looked at her at the well and said, "And the man you're living with right now is not your husband."
Right.
Yeah, that's crazy. Go ahead with
All
the
right,
next card.
here you go. Next card.
Yep.
all right. You keep handing it to me upside down. You notice
Yeah.
that? All right.
Yeah.
I like the reveal. Unless, go ahead.
This makes no sense at all, but I'll just do it. Does it?
Go ahead.
I might agree. The Last Jedi is donkey brains.
Danley has donkey for brains
Why are you saying that to me?
because you wrote the cards as you admitted, and I would never say something
I
like
just have
that
'em.
about
He
our
said
good
it.
about our good friend Jeff
said
Oliver,
it.
who's having a coffee and not a milk.
Maybe you should have a milk.
Yeah, you should.
Jeff,
Yeah, why don't you?
I want more milk in your life.
Why don't you have a milk and what was it they said about the lady? She was full of the milk of human kindness.
Yep.
There you go.
That was on our friends TTC.
Yeah, on our
Tea Time Crimes.
on our episode with Tea Time Crimes. So you found yourself in this position. Now this lady has revealed all kinds of things to you. What's the conversation like post show? Because like our post show conversations, Danley and I do this once a week. You do this like 5 nights a week.
That's right.
So what's the post show conversation of, you know?
Do you ever need a whiskey?
Yeah, like do you?
I'm joking about that, but like that you deal with a lot of heavy subjects
Yeah.
all
Yeah,
day. I'm
yeah.
not trying to hijack your
No,
question.
you're
but
you're good, but like that idea of it. But there's also this like proximity thing. That, like it's easier to get frustrated with your work, or the people that you're working with, like your coworkers that you're there with day in and day out, than it is for Dan and I, who get together like once a week. We do this, we goof off. If we have a bad
he
episode,
still gets frustrated with me.
yeah, like if we have a bad episode, it's like not really that big a deal. But for y'all, when you're with each other every day of the week, and it's overnight, so everybody's kind of already exhausted, right?
Right.
It's a difficult thing to do. You have this lady who totally goes off the rails on you. Like, is there the, hey, Jeff, like, what are we paying you for? Like, did you, like, you know, like, great job
Didn't see that
screening-
coming.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Like great job screening the calls, right? Like, maybe we hire a donkey brains to do this. Like, what,
Let's see what Rian Johnson's up to.
Yeah, what
You're
are
like,
those?
Shut up about
Yeah,
Star Wars.
what are those? No, you should talk about Star Wars because of Christian Nerd HQ. You guys make sure to check it out.
Yeah.
But you know, what are those conversations like post, you know, program at that point? Because that's a pretty intense jump
Yeah.
from one to the other, and how you handle that as a counselor.
Yeah, June's been handling the program and handling people, you know, off air too for 30 plus years on these kind of topics. So I think she's not surprised when anything happens like that. In fact, many times she will. I'll think this is going to be one she's never heard before. This kind of situation, and she'll not only say that she has, but there are 5 other times she's dealt with.
Oh, good grief!
This type of situation. So it's not a surprise to her really when something like that comes up, or when people give more information, or sometimes there are people who are just spouting and spewing, you know, on the phone with me, and they were on there for a long time, and then they get on the air and they clam up.
Really?
Oh yeah, and they don't have much to say. They're just when she says something, they'll just go, mm-hmm. That's it.
Like now they're on the air.
What a show!
You know what? That happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was sitting here and I was talking to this kid about The Empire Strikes
I
Back.
feel like you're talking to me, but you're not.
and Dan was really trying to help me get some good content out of him, and he just wouldn't turn off his phone.
Yeah, I kept saying hi to
Camden.
his mom. Have you guys ever had a Sleepless in Seattle type situation where somebody calls
explain?
in? Somebody calls in, and your office, your broadcast studio gets flooded with mail for whatever it is. You know, in this situation, Sleepless in Seattle, if you haven't seen the movie, it's a fantastic movie. But
Made in
there's
what year?
I don't know.
Like,
1990.
I don't think my wife was born when Sleepless in Seattle.
Well, she should watch it because it's great.
We're living Sleepless. No, 1993.
All right, wasn't far off.
No. When you go 1990.
Yeah.
Yeah, it covers 10 years.
No, that gives or takes about 3
Yeah,
years.
about a decade.
You said 1993.
Yeah.
I said 1990.
Yeah, which is the
That's 3 years.
That's
3 years.
You were specifically talking about 1990, not like 1990 as in the decade, because that's what
Yes,
I took it
I was
as.
talking about 1990.
You were hedging
the
your
year.
bets over a 10-year period is what
Yep.
1990s.
I nailed it. So, have
Yeah.
you ever had a situation where maybe it's someone that gets famous, or in the movie's case, gets flooded with interested women? This is a terrible question. Here,
love it.
read a card.
I don't think so.
Some of these are not good.
Just
you
put
go.
them. Content
There you
is
go.
content, right? How many
Just-
times have we heard
just
Gary
fan 'em out. Let me-
Gary Vaynerchuk say that?
I have a feeling you won't like one of these questions.
One of the questions? Or
Just
one of
keep
the cards?
going. One of the cards.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm trying to read your writing here.
Yeah. What is that?
Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
All right. My voice is so deep, I once roused a minor earthquake by clearing my throat.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow. So
They're not great, okay?
So you've been working on Hope in the Night now for 3 years,
Right.
and now recently you've made this shift into podcasting, which is kind of a new avenue for you.
Yes?
I
Yes and
want
no.
to, I want to talk first about because Hope in the Night does have its own podcast. It's got its own. If you want to, you can find its programs on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and all of those places. And there are thousands of episodes because you guys have been uploading episodes since like 2008.
That's right.
Yeah, so like
forever.
if you're one of those people that like, oh, if I start a podcast, I got to go back to the very beginning and finish it. You've got enough to listen to until Christmas if you start now, and you'll never have to turn it off.
That's right.
But that said, you've made this foray into doing some things, particularly the church resource. I'm a little bit interested in. Talk to us about what that show is and what your aim is with that program in particular.
Yeah, well, at one, I just remember the conversation. I came to you and said, I think I need to start doing some kind of podcast, knowing that you were a guru, and so I wanted to.
That's too high a praise. The guru, the guru of podcasts.
He wears a muumuu.
I wear a muumuu as the guru when I have a milk.
All comes back to that.
Here, read a card to
Read
get
this
us back
first
on
one.
track.
You don't have to read that. Just read it first.
I read it. Should have just read it straight.
Yep.
You're not going to read it.
I will.
No, that's
Whatever you put in
fine.
front of me.
That's fine.
He'll have to cut it later.
Yeah, I would have to. You could just read everything except the last word, and then just like raise your eyebrow.
And knowing that it rhymes.
Yeah.
Is that enough of a hint?
Sure. Yeah. There you go.
Bidets, not just for the.
Fantastic. So
You put a sound effect in there,
We're
like
in.
a ding.
Yep. I have
not
one
just
for
for
you
the
too.
Gibson family. So Danley's big on bidets. Thanks, Letterman. You've got the words to the outside.
Top 10.
Anyway, so as you were saying, you wanted to get into podcasting. You
Yeah.
started doing the church resource. Tell us about
And
the
you
show.
went to the guru.
And I did. And then
the
it's
guru
an,
and the muumuu with the milk.
it's an idea that I think you had before and kind of started on, had the structure of it, but
we
didn't have
kinda
the
worked
content.
through, yeah.
So what that is I think you had taken a look at my massive book collection of my
Yes.
shelves in my house,
Yeah.
and that's moved out of a pastor's office, and I had to move them all into the house, and so out of my office as a pastor, by the way. So it is out there and lots and lots of books, and you thought, well, this guy's read a lot. What it means is I've bought a lot of books.
Yeah.
That's the truth, and so it means that all of those on the shelf I don't really know that I even would agree with, or I certainly haven't read all of them. So
Lucas has lots of books he doesn't necessarily agree with.
I do, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I have
fine.
a whole shelf in my house that is for heresy,
Yeah.
and then another shelf in my house that's all World War II books, a lot of them from the German perspective, which my wife like keeps hidden because like this. Oh
That
man,
was day one.
this is gonna get me in trouble. So
Moving these books.
when we first got married, we had a couple of roommates that my old roommates were living with us. We got married a month earlier than we anticipated. The plan was that they were going to live with us for like a week, and then they were going to move into their new place. Yeah. Well, we got married during the pandemic, or like right before the pandemic, like shut everything down, like 30 minutes before the shelter-in-place order. So we got married a month before we were supposed to, And then once the pandemic hits, it was really hard for my roommates to find a place. So they were supposed to kind of be like this weird week of overlap, which turned into 3 months. So when they're out of the house and it's finally like just our place, Kirsten moves everything, and she doesn't look at what's on my bookshelves. She just moves one of my bookshelves into the living room. We have her mom and her now stepdad over, and there are this whole shelf that's just swastikas. and like as he walks in, he looks at it, and she's looking at him, and we don't really know him very well at the time. And so she's talking to him a little bit, and then she sees that he's just like staring at something over on the bookshelf, and she's just following his line of sight, and she sees this entire shelf that's like Rise and Fall of the Third Reich and Mein Kampf and all of this stuff that are these history books that I have because I love the history of World War II. Yeah. And so Dan Carlin's recommended a lot of these on his podcast, which is why I got them. And as she's looking at that, she's like nudging me and sending me text messages, and she's like, "We are getting the Nazi books out of this house immediately." I was like, no, wait. Most of those are anti-Nazi books. They just have the little zigzag on there for the thing. So, yep.
I'm sure that's ever been called a little zigzag.
That's on the back of your computer.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, and good night, Camden. Why don't you text
Top
your mom
10.
some more? Like,
She's not responding.
yeah, that's a great reason.
Here you go. Here's a safe one.
It's kind of sad, actually.
Yeah. So
Here's a safe one, and then read that, and then we'll move on.
Card.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
All right, go ahead. Keep going.
So,
If there had been more O's, I would have said go.
So we,
I almost wrote it Geaux.
You should have. Go
Well,
Tigers.
I didn't.
Yep.
That was a
Go
little-
Tigers.
little Cajun.
Anyway, so your library is chock full of stuff, which, like you said, means that you have purchased a lot of books.
Yes. Or been handed a lot of books.
Right. And one of the things that we both know, having been pastors for a while, is that you do get handed a lot of books, or people recommend a lot of resources to you that aren't necessarily useful for you, and that's kind of where this show comes in. So what do you do on the church resource?
So the church resource, I try to, I was going to say, maybe just give the short version of the book or how I would use it, more so than a review.
Okay.
So we're not giving stars for the book but really how you would use this, what context, whether I liked it or not, and the ideas that you told me early on was that if there are churches, there are so many, some 90% of churches with 100 or fewer people. They're rural, they're bivocationally pastored. And so if you can listen to somebody on a podcast talk about this book for 10 minutes versus taking the time to actually read it and think, I shouldn't have spent the time to do that. Yeah. Then, that's all the better. If you can just listen to the Church Resource podcast for 10 minutes, it's all done. And then you think, well, this is one I need to have, or this is one I can just pass along.
And I think you do a wonderful job with it, because one of the things that you've done that kind of expanded on what the original ideas for the show were is that you have had some seminary training, or you've had a lot of seminary training. You've also, like we mentioned, you've got a degree in biblical counseling, and you did some top 5 lists, which is not something that in the original conversations about the show that we talked about too much. But you were like, here are the 5 books that you need for biblical counseling or Christian counseling that every pastor needs. And some of the feedback from that has been really incredible. That for me in particular, so many of those books I not only had I never heard of, because that's not a field that I studied, but also that I didn't have on my shelf as a resource or was able to point people to. What have you found, in particular, doing those? Those here are the 5 books that everybody needs on biblical counseling. We'll go with that one because that's where your background's at. What have you found has been most challenging about putting together those lists? Because I think everybody kind of has in the back of their mind, all right, here's kind of the place that maybe I go to June Hunt, maybe I go to Dr. Dobson to check this out. And your list is not necessarily including any of those things. It's things that have to do with that specific field. So what's that like putting those together?
To me, it is helpful to go back and I would even tell anybody who's active in church ministry, because I'm not. I mean, I'm a church member, a faithful church goer, but I'm not active in ministry that on that side of it. Is that know what books you have and what wealth of information you have right there at your fingertips.
Right.
Go back and look at because it's made me think, well, even if I knew the book or I had studied it or taken a class on it or whatever, I come back and of course, just like anything, you get a lot more out of it. You remind yourselves of that's where I read that, and this is the strength of that argument, or this is the help that somebody gave for counseling. And then, the way that it often happens is that when you get reminded of something like that, when you have something brought to the surface again, within a couple of days, I think you're going to be using it.
Yeah.
Not just because it came to mind, but because it was so good, and I think God is preparing you for that conversation down the road for you to be reading this, and you're going to need this in a couple of days, buddy. And that's what he calls me anyway.
Yeah.
He calls you buddy.
Hey,
buddy.
Hey, buddy.
It's Bubba sometimes. Depends.
Wow.
Yeah, so it depends on how he,
Man, it brings me back to a story where a guy told us he once saw Jesus in a jumpsuit running down the street, and he had to go catch him and wrestle him down so that he could get blessed. It was a totally weird. And his name was Perry.
All right.
I don't think he calls you Bubba.
No?
That's what I'm getting at.
I think when he's really upset with me and needs to get my attention, it's like, hey, what are you doing, Bubba? And I go, whoa.
It's not Junior. That's what my dad always did. Junior.
What are
Junior
you
was
saying
a
this
big
with
one.
like you feel in your soul, or this is what you hear with your ears?
I feel in my soul.
Oh, okay.
Good clarification.
That
Yeah.
is my job. It's not my job.
So this is not even
Both
on a card, but how about
General Grease
how
and
about-
Captain Clarity.
How about, hey, Bubba, what are you doing? Something like that.
Yeah. Gotcha. That makes sense.
How about this one?
Oh my goodness.
You have to. This is for Levi.
Levi, it's time to go night-night. Daddy and Mommy need to play Lord of the Rings tourney through Middle Earth. What's that say?
Journey through Middle Earth.
Journey through Middle Earth.
I was thinking tournament. Yeah.
It's a tabletop
And
role-playing
then what's
game.
the last
And then you
word?
take it over, and
Then
then
you got to turn. That's on the
then,
backside.
tabletop.
All right.
Take two.
Take 3.
Yeah.
This is it. I did.
Walk through and mark this up. And
And here we
First
go.
off,
All right.
Camden
And-
wrote these and wrote them down.
No, I did not. Don't blame this on me.
Okay, please.
And 3, 2, 1.
Levi, it's time to go night-night. Daddy and Mommy need to play Lord of the Rings Journey through Middle Earth tabletop game. Then make you a little brother. Everybody's got a different idea of foreplay, I guess.
You can cut that. You can cut it. You can cut it, but I mean, why?
I think this might end up being like our after the show. All right. Where were we? Yeah. So
I have no idea.
So the church resource is pretty good. Check it out. No, so you were saying that like something you'll read and then God will kind of bring to your attention the like, hey, remember that thing that you read a couple of days ago?
Right.
This is how you're going to use it.
Yep.
And that is part of the intent with what you're doing in creating these lists and things like that is like because what is it? One of Charles Spurgeon's lectures to his students is a lecture that's, I believe it's called To the Man with Slender Apparatus.
Right.
And it's geared towards people with small libraries because you've always heard the saying like leaders are readers and that type of thing. But there's also something to a minister that is not investing time in their own education, not just, through seminary and things like that, but in educating themselves in order to serve the specific flock that they are called to tend at the time. That you will find yourself really quickly being ineffective because you're not investing time in learning how to take care of them. And I think that's one of the cool things about the list is that there are, it's a snapshot of those 10 or 20 minute episodes.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the quick bullet points for this one and this one and this one. Kind of get them if you're struggling with that, or if you know somebody that is, recommend this book to them. It's good, it's safe, it's sound, and from there, I think it's really cool.
I believe strongly in somebody being educated in what they're doing and keeping fresh in it because, yes, old theology is good theology, but there are new ways of thinking. There are even things you can go back and read that you hadn't read before that are hundreds of years old.
Yeah.
But I remember talking to a friend. We had been in seminary together. And then it was probably 6-8 years between times we separate ways, and then we kind of reconnected. And I asked him if he'd been reading anything good lately, and just curious, what his library looks like versus what I'm reading and what I'm studying now. And he said, "Oh, I really haven't read anything since seminary." And I thought,
Oh, wow.
"Oh no,
Yeah.
what's wrong with this picture, right? And how do you stay fresh? And how do you, I don't know."
Is listening to audiobooks equal to reading?
To me, it is, and I have a friend who says you have to listen to it twice for it to count as you're reading it once.
I like that.
But
That's why I listen to it at double speed.
right, but I'm listening at 1.5 speed. I can't get to double
Yeah.
yet, but I just consume them as fast as I can.
Lucas turned me on to Libby, which is an app that uses your local libraries.
Yeah.
If you have a library card, you can read, or you can use it on Kindle. You can listen, and it has reawoken my literary cravings.
Yeah,
How about that? That's a good Reiner line, huh?
that's a good.
You must be listening to Brandon Sanderson.
Yes. Yeah, but yeah, it's fantastic. So what are you reading right now?
I am reading a book called Counsel for Couples, which we did on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and I am working on developing a 12-week, 12-part series on marriage, on kind of marriage restoration.
I did want to touch on that. This is something
Yeah.
that we had talked about ahead of time that I know that, and I'd love for you to explain it, but I'm aware that you have been going through certain steps to re-engage with your wife.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Would you tell us about that?
Yeah, in fact, the program is called Re-Engage.
Whoa.
Wow.
Man.
Did you know that?
Maybe I'm the guru.
My
Could be.
goodness.
No, and it all comes out of because it is
Slippery devil on me.
Somebody's had a milk today.
obviously.
One too many milks.
Well, so it does come out of personal experience that several years ago that we were just not in a good place, and I had no idea. And I've told my wife this, so this is not new information. That I just told her, we need to go get some help. Well, in my mind, it was that she needs help.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, me, obviously.
God, that woman you gave me.
That's right.
And
Obviously,
he was like,
She's not listening here.
Listen, Bubba.
I wasn't listening to that,
Right, yeah,
obviously. So, we went and we filled out the card together. We're sitting there in the first program of our church does a program called Re-Engage, and it is and you're filling out the information, your name, birthday, address, phone numbers, all these things, and then it says rate and it's two people filling out the same card.
Yeah. So you and your spouse.
Right.
Yeah.
So how would you rate your marriage 1 to 10? And I, very proudly was like, well, I mean, I would say a 10, but we're here, so I'll say an 8.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. Because obviously you need some work, or else we wouldn't have ended up here.
There's always things to learn.
Yeah.
I never give a perfect score.
There's some kind of a handicap here, right? So,
Right, yeah.
So, all right. So I'll just put that, and then I gave it to my wife, and I'm waiting for her to fill it out. And they're presenting, and they're talking to us, to the group, and I'm like, okay, you need to do the card, and we're still talking, and she just smiles at me, kind of sheepishly, and I was like, okay, well, you got to do the card. They're still talking, and they said, by the way, hand the cards in. And I said, you got to fill out the card, you got to finish, and she would not do it. And she finally, I saw her write something and turn it in. I mean, it was
That's never a good sign.
No.
so. But what we hear, what we've seen now, because now we're facilitators in that program, is that men will most often rate themselves 4 or 5 points higher than their wives.
4 or 5 points higher?
Yeah.
We think we're pretty good.
So we were about
Wow.
a 3.
We walk across the mirror and we go, hey, looking good.
Yeah.
Look at that. All right.
So we were a 3 in her eyes.
Wow.
And then, so, it's been of both of us trying to work together, realizing that God's at the center, and everybody says that, but as you draw closer to God, you draw closer to each other, and that we work toward that. And we have now been through the program 4 times. The first as students, and the second as kind of learning to do that under a mentor couple. The next 2 times as facilitators of that, and it was really until this last time was the fourth time that we'd done it, and something really caught that just, I don't know, it just brought us together like nothing ever had. It was a kind of an emotional intimacy of forgiveness and kind of doing some confession with each other.
Yeah.
That just made that just drove the whole thing home. And I thought, oh, now it's like, now I get it. I had to go through it 4 times.
Wow.
Right? Hey,
That's
Bubba.
what,
Hey,
so,
Bubba.
So
Right?
now, yeah, exactly. And now you're doing some, I think like, I would say individual coaching, but you are doing some, I guess private coaching would be the proper terminology
Right.
for some married couples.
Yeah.
That are going through that thing that maybe need a little extra help.
Yeah, I'll do couples coaching. I'll do what I found, and part of the model of Reengage is that I'm not trying to duplicate them, not trying to overtake
Sure.
what they do. It's certainly great, but is that I found the strength in group coaching was just amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not new. I mean, AA's been doing it for a long time, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But being able to do that and really confess in front of each other, to learn from each other. You're a little farther down the road than I am, so I can learn from you. You can remind me of some of the things, or maybe I can encourage you with something.
Right.
So it's, as we do that in the group, I just think that's a powerful thing.
Yeah, and it is weird, the dynamic that young couples and older couples have together. My wife was just Levi's got a little photo album, and it's like got little crunchy edges so he can chew on it and all that stuff, right? But you put like pictures of your family in there, and they're in like these sealed things, so that like he can see there's like, oh, here's a photo of mom and dad, and here's grandmother and granddaddy, and all those kinds of things. And we were looking through some photos of our wedding, and then I have like these Facebook memories that pop up. And I would say, even though we're still young in this, like 3 years into it, we've definitely matured as a couple already because of everything that we went through with Levi, some of the things we went through with my parents whenever they were sick, and just our relationship had to grow really quickly or mature really quickly, I think, in certain areas. But I was looking back, and in some of these Facebook memories, I'm looking, and on the island in our house, there's always flowers in all of these old Facebook memories. And I don't know the last time that I just because bought her flowers. And when you look at the young couple and old couple dynamics in groups like this, there are a lot of things that we begin to neglect as we get older that we, it's been months, right? But with some of these older couples, like it's years since they've done anything like that. Yep. Whereas these newlyweds that are doing it just because they think it's an important thing for their marriage is to get in the Reengage, like that guy is still buying flowers every week. And on the one hand, you want to be like, oh, well, you're making me look bad, you jerk. But on the other hand, you really should, take some time to reflect. And like, these are little things I can do for my wife. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a buddy of mine was, don't forget that even though you're married to a woman, that she's still a girl, that you still have to do things, like you have to get her cards every now and then. And like, no matter how strong and independent and
I used ChatGPT to write my wife a nice email and I sent it to her and she loved it. She doesn't know.
This is the best thing you've ever written.
She's gonna, for sure. For sure. Good job, Stan.
I took the initiative.
Yeah.
To ask ChatGPT to write me something.
You took the initiative. You should have had him write these.
No doubt. But there is, I think, something to that in the sense that like being reminded of the things that we used to do, and that even though they don't have to be like every week or every day or whatever, even though the frequency of those things might change, that they're still really important pieces of connecting with our spouse and letting them know that they are continually loved, appreciated, respected, all those types of things.
Yep.
So to shift gears again, one of the first things that I found out about you, as you're talking to me about this marriage facilitating stuff, you're talking to me about what you've been doing with the ministry at Hope for the Heart, the fact that you used to be a pastor. I was like, well what's been some of your inspiration for all of this? And you were like, actually, recently one of the things that I've really gotten into is Charles Spurgeon, and that's really kind of spurred me to do more ministry endeavors. And we have featured you on an episode. We took over an episode of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast, which are also parts.
That spurred me to go look up this person.
Yeah, to figure out
because
who
I kept
Charles
calling
Spurgeon
him
was.
Sturgeon.
Yeah, like he was a fish.
Yeah.
Yeah, like we were going to harvest Jeff's caviar. So But we took over an episode of the Christian Nerds Unite podcast.
I loved it, man. It was so funny.
They are part of the Christian Nerd HQ network, and what we've hence discovered is that we intersperse these things of you doing this Spurgeon Speaks deal, these ridiculous skits. But none of the people that were on the show, because they're all like us and they're neurotic and they're like, oh, I can't stand the sound of my own voice. None of them have gone back and listened to it. And they were all individually stunned whenever we were like, hey, we're talking with Jeff Oliver. He's the Spurgeon guy. And they're like, what Spurgeon guy? And we're like, go back 6 months ago and watch that episode. And every one of those people has been like, this is genius. If only you would have let us know that you were doing this.
You should have watched it.
Yeah. David Jesse and Splashly.
Yeah.
And probably Ricky.
No, Ricky watched it, but he was in the hospital.
Yeah, that's right. He
doesn't remember a whole lot from that time because it was a terrible time.
Yeah, it was pretty rough.
But we did make him laugh.
Also, I am not going to deign to tell Doug Tenaple what to do. So, Doug, watch it if you want to.
Yeah.
And if you don't, we still love you anyway.
I'm scared of Doug, so
for sure.
You can do what you want.
Yeah, not only because he's like 6 impossible, but he's
what is his spirit animal?
Doug's spirit animal? I think it is Earthworm Jim. I think Earthworm Jim is his spirit. I think that's why he created Earthworm Jim, is because that's his spirit animal. Yeah, for sure. So talk to us a little bit about the genesis of Spurgeon Speaks and what you're doing with that project.
Well, I think that as somebody told me once we were sitting talking about this, and I'm thinking, well, do I even jump out and do this Spurgeon thing and do the presentations like that? And the guy looked at me, and he just dead in the eyes, and he says, God made you to look the way you look for a reason, and you have to do this. It would be ungodly for you not to do this.
Wow.
Thought, okay.
There you go.
That's my Hey Bubba moment, right?
Yeah, no joke.
Again, so... Well, and I don't even remember growing up with, I've been in church forever, but knowing or hearing that name, Charles Spurgeon, I was probably like you, like, who is this guy?
I heard it, but it doesn't mean anything to me.
I went through seminary and heard of him. Went through seminary with only a goatee, though. And then, and then as I started growing this out,
did you go to seminary in 1993? The year Sleepless in Seattle, the smash hit rom-com classic, came out.
I can show you pictures.
It's so probably not. It's such a good movie. I cry every time.
If you want to have a romantic evening with your wife, listen to read a little Charles Spurgeon, and have a milk, and sit down.
Sleepless in
sit
Seattle.
Down with Sleepless in Seattle.
You guys will have a great time. It's way better than
Guaranteed.
Lord of the Rings tabletop.
This will be where the women rate it considerably 4 to 5 points higher than what the men do whenever they're talking about.
We loved Sleepless in Seattle. The milk was weird. That was a weird part that my husband wanted to do.
Curdled milk.
Yeah, you can drink it right out of the jug.
All right, so
you were saying before Danley hands you the last and final card.
I feel like it's gonna be a letdown. No, it's not bad. It's not great. Okay,
you've reassessed it.
It's not great.
Yeah,
but
I never had to worry about my voice cracking during puberty. It went straight from
like baby giggles, baby gurgles.
To what?
To bassy booms. I don't know. I wrote them down real fast. I mean, Camden wrote them down real fast.
Yeah, how dare ye?
I went straight from baby gurgles to bass-heavy bombs. Booms. I don't know.
I've learned one thing, which is try to write these have Camden write these ahead of time with more time.
Yeah. You could word process these.
With not the chisel-tipped Sharpie marker.
Yeah. I know. It was like, it has to be dark.
Yeah.
And now it's just indecipherable.
This is calligraphy. Hold on.
Wow.
I had one favorite.
Yeah.
All of the other ones were what I expected, but one killed me.
Yeah. The rest were filler. So
it was
you're Spurgeoning.
Yes.
Yes. Let's talk about your Spurgeoning career.
Distance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So as you know, the beard started to grow in, and I was reading more Spurgeon at the same time, probably not unrelated.
Yeah.
Right. I just was inspired to grow a beard. Just from
naturally.
Yeah, I mean,
that's what happens when men reach a certain age.
Mm-hmm. Our backs start going out and our beards come in.
and just reading more Spurgeon. I think it was just a natural thing. So
is your back out?
It's still in. It's good.
Okay, good. That's good, man. Good for you.
It's doing fine.
Maybe it's all the milk.
I really don't do much milk anymore.
Too much milk.
Try to cut back.
This episode has devolved so quickly into just.
I'm having a great time.
We bring Jeff on the show to talk about all his projects and their relation to the American dairy farmer's plight.
Hey, 18,000 cows caught on fire.
How?
What?
It's a thing, dude. It was last week. There was 18,000 cows died in a fire at a dairy farm in somewhere in Texas or Oklahoma or something.
Can you fact check that, please?
Yeah, check it out.
Camden, that's going to be your job.
While you're doing that,
No, I got it.
so
I'm gonna be faster.
Oh, please don't.
just realizing that with Spurgeon, there was so much that people were not exposed to, not aware of in his work from 150 years ago.
Yeah, and Spurgeon,
South
Charles,
Fork dairy farm fire explosion kills 18,000 cows
in where?
on April 10th. Yep.
South Fork in Dallas?
In
in
Plano?
Texas?
Yeah,
South Fork Dairy Farm in Castro County, Texas. An explosion fire broke out at the South Fork Dairy Farm, resulting in the death.
Like where Dallas was shot?
Yep, at
That's right.
least 18,000 cows. And then there was one human injury.
JR?
Who blew up JR?
That's what really happened to
this
JR.
marks the deadliest such barn blaze on record.
Wow.
And represents just a fraction of the 62,000 dairy cows in Texas. So, small dent, but overall horrifying.
It is.
Full circle.
Back to you, Jeff.
Yeah. Spurgeon.
All right.
So what you're talking about is Charles Spurgeon, the 19th century British preacher.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying that like even 150 years later that there's just this incredible breadth of work, but particularly over the
I
last
love
like
bread.
100 years in the United States, like we haven't done much studying of him. Really, probably up until like the early 80s is when he started to sort of see this resurgence in popularity amongst American evangelicals.
Yeah, he's really popular among Calvinists because he is one if you read his writings.
Well, it depends on
I think he should be an honorary Texan.
Charles Spurgeon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he definitely has
I'm willing to write
a
Governor
Lone
Abbott
Ranger.
and ask him about
He
that.
has a swagger about him.
Yeah.
Yes.
He
Yeah,
went
he-
against
he
all
wasn't-
of the Baptists in England.
He wasn't
He did,
well liked
yeah.
in the southern states though because he was for abolition earlier than it came about.
True
in
Texans
the US.
are for abolition.
Well, sure,
Yeah.
right,
And we're futurists.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Texan.
You heard it here first. Charles Spurgeon was a Texan.
Welcome
If
to Texas.
Phil Collins is an honorary Texan. Why can't Charles Spurgeon be?
Phil Collins from
From Genesis?
Yeah, he was.
I'm sorry, Charles Spurgeon, that you're in such terrible company.
Well, yeah.
It's kind
I
of
mean,
like knighting
I-
people. Like
I think-
so many people are knighted these days that
Yeah,
it's
but
like
I'm
it
a very
waters
Texan-
it down.
Phil Collins is cool, but Davy Crockett
yeah.
telling Congress that they can go to H and he's going to go to
yeah,
Texas.
he's going to go to Texas.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's as cool as it's
Yeah,
going to
Jim
get.
Bowie, right?
Yeah.
Honorary Texan, Tennessee man. But I don't understand.
Phil Collins.
Yeah, I don't understand Phil
For some
Collins.
reason, he was huge in Alamo history, and had gotten a lot of artifacts, and all of a sudden,
Is that's what he felt coming in the air tonight? Was Santa Ana?
has this huge collection of stuff and donated it all back to the Alamo to Texas, and
Wow.
they said, "Hey, you know what? You're an honorary Texan."
Well, I guess I can forgive him for Tarzan because of that.
Yeah.
So,
I haven't seen Tarzan. I don't care.
so you became Charles Spurgeon because of all these conversations. Now
Right.
you do this. You've got this channel called Spurgeon Speaks, and starting in July, you'll be doing a daily devotion,
Right.
where you are dressed up as Charles Spurgeon, delivering Spurgeon devotions, and I think you're going to add like messages to that. Why do you think it's so important that, in particular, like you already talked about how this guy told you look the way that you do, you got the voice that you do for a reason, you got to use it. Why do you think that it's so important that you bring to life these sermons and these writings that are 150 years old?
So it's not only that they're old, or that because I really like Charles Spurgeon, because we're twins separated by 150 years.
Right.
But because
I don't know if you're an honorary Texan yet, but I think you're getting close.
I haven't learned to cook a brisket yet. So
Ooh.
is that all right?
Yeah.
That's okay for you not knowing yet. That's acceptable.
All right.
Because I have recently been there with multiple failed briskets, and it got me down. But
yeah, well, it will.
The true Texan keeps going.
That's right. Yeah, keep going. So make Texas proud.
That's it.
So, but it's because they're so deep and so rich. I mean, they're sermons that are so well done. Some 3,600 sermons alone.
Good grief!
I mean, you could read one a day for 10 years and be right there. So, and then with the devotions you're mentioning, morning and evening devotions, he's got a checkbook of faith, which is another daily devotion he did. And then there are so many other, like you mentioned, lectures to my students before that. It's a series of basically he's training a bunch of seminary guys. They're just sitting around in his office, and he's telling them, well, this is what I believe on how a minister should dress, how a minister should act out in public, how a minister should pick which sermons to preach, and what passages, what books to preach next. And so it's all about being a pastor. So all these things are so rich and so well done. And so there's a wealth of information there for me to cover. And I'm happy to bring that out into a place, into a format that people can now pick up and listen to. Again, it's about, taking it off your shelf, and now we can present it a podcast or a YouTube video or something that people can now listen to, short pieces or full sermons or whatever that we end up doing.
I'm really fascinated by the idea of not just like something that's coming from this time period that's now being put into a modern context, but I'm fascinated with his writing style and the idea that can, because of the beauty of it, can translate directly into a modern culture. Now there are a few things, like there are some things that he makes, like some contemporary analogies that he makes that don't really translate very well. But as far as like the these and the thus and the saiths and all these kinds of things that you automatically think, well, like if I'm reading, I want to get rid of all of those things. In the way that he writes, it's so poetic, and hearing you deliver it has been so cool. Your plan right now is to release, I think July 1st is when Spurgeon Speaks is going to go, but you already do have the YouTube channel up, and what could we find on the YouTube channel right now if we went to go visit it?
Right now it's just a couple of videos there of me. There's one where I did a presentation at a Christmas party. I was asked to do that by my work at the ministry there for Hope for the Heart. There's a Christmas party where everybody's invited to present their talent. So I did that, and I don't think they knew what they were getting into, because
no doubt.
Spurgeon wasn't a fan of Christmas. He called it this
True Texan.
Right. He called it this pagan revelry. So
oh wow.
So
how's about that?
I presented a little bit, and I could just see, and everybody's in Christmas party mode, and they've got their little plates and they're drinking coffee and stuff. And then I'm up there in kind of a rocking chair, and I'm presenting this.
You start berating them, or
yeah, pretty much. That's what it sounds like.
Start tearing down Christmas, and
wow.
You just see all the kind of plastered smiles just go to concern to, oh my gosh, what have we done?
Yeah.
And then you light up a cigar.
And then but I looked, and what I did is pulled together so there's not one long writing of Spurgeon's that's 20, 30 minutes long about Christmas, but I pulled together a bunch of pieces of writings that he had done over years, and so I pulled these pieces about how Christmas has gone too far, that it's too commercialized even then, and but also I put a however in there. I only added a few words. Most of the stuff is his words, right? And added that it is a time for families to get together. It is a time for people to recognize Christ. It is a time to be inspired to worship the true God. And so then you turn that, but it was a heck of a way to capture an audience.
Yeah, for sure. So you can see that that particular performance is on the Spurgeon Speaks YouTube channel right now.
And hear the nervous laughter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, we want to make sure that everybody checks all that stuff out. Jeff, as you know, we end all of our interviews with a segment that we like to call Controlled Rowdiness. This is just a series of rapid-fire questions, which you can answer with as short or as lengthy a response as you would like to. There are no right answers, but there are several wrong ones, so make sure not to step on any of those landmines. Expect nothing from us by way of reply or response. And to get us started, I'm going to send it over to General Grease.
As the reincarnated Spurgeon that we don't believe in, would Spurgeon insist that everyone go to church on Christmas morning, or would it be okay to go on Christmas Eve?
Any celebration of Christmas is fine.
Great.
It's great.
Your turn.
All right. Jeff, you are the father of 5.
Yes.
You've got 2 older sons. You got 3 younger daughters. Which child are you the most proud of?
I'm just trying to think of which one brought me coffee this morning, or a coffee.
Yes.
Is that how we?
Right.
You had a coffee this morning.
You had a coffee.
If you had to sing karaoke in front of a large audience, what song would you pick?
This goes back to where what you started to say is that
Just answer the question. Don't grandstand.
we need some background.
don't try and pasteurize this.
All right,
My
so
milk directly out the fridge.
Directly.
Just
I'll
like my
answer-
answers.
all right, set me up again. Ask the question.
You forgot
So
it.
If you had to sing karaoke
right,
in front of a large audience, what song are you picking?
Elvis, Can't Help Falling in Love.
Ooh.
I used to be an Elvis impersonator
You'd be
too.
great at that. Yes,
You used to be an Elvis impersonator?
Of course.
Okay, so give us a little sample.
I was Vegas Elvis, obviously,
Right.
not the young wise man say, only fools rush in, but I can't help falling in love with you.
I'm getting
Something like
emotional.
that.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that was wonderful.
Great job.
Man, it's like he was really here on the toilet seat right next to us.
Go ahead.
All right, Jeffrey, are you
say that?
Are
In a second.
you a Star War?
Yes, I guess. A Star Wars fan, yes.
No. Actually, that's what that means.
That's
Yeah,
not the
like a
question.
Star War?
Do you
That's what
like
that
your
means.
job?
Okay.
All right, Dan, your turn.
For my last turn, what I would love is for you to read this slowly. I mean, intentionally.
Deliberately.
Yeah, yes.
Yes.
As a commanding father would.
Yep.
Life before death, strength before weakness, journey before destination.
Amazing.
Now, I would like for you to turn into a sword.
It's from our favorite book right
Our
now.
favorite book series. Yeah, yep. If you were a vegetable, what vegetable would you be and why?
What a silly question. An avocado.
I don't think that's a vegetable.
Is that not a vegetable?
It's a fruit.
Yeah. And we're finished with a wrong answer from Jeff Oliver. Gotcha. Hey, thank you guys for watching the Reverend and the Reprobate. Jeff, tell our audience where it is that they can find your stuff if they want to check you out online.
We are at spurgeonspeaks.com. Well, that's here. Set me up again. YouTube channel, Spurgeon
If you have a
Speaks.
few bars,
So the YouTube channel, Spurgeon Speaks, also on podcasts for the church resource, and coming soon on Spurgeon Speaks.
Yeah,
there as well.
starting July 1st. Man, thanks so much for coming on the show. We appreciate
you are a
it.
great sport. You're a great friend.
Well, thank you. Same here. I'm going to need to go have a milk now.
Yes, go have a milk. Well, Jeff frickin' Oliver. Dan, how about that?
Yeah.
We're just gonna do the wrap up with him sitting right here in between us and just pretend like he isn't.
I love this.
Yep.
I had a lot of fun with Jeff.
You know what? Jeff was not so bad. He's way better on the show than he is in person.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm still sitting here.
The cigars didn't come up at all.
No, I was a little disappointed about that. Jeff is not only a cigar aficionado, but also one who may actually end up repping some stuff with a company from the Dominican Republic called Reform Cigar, because they do have a cigar line that is all about Charles Spurgeon. And Jeff,
That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it would be really neat to see Jeff's face on there. But that's something he
Now-
neglected to bring up because apparently he doesn't really want the gig.
Now that we are finally making some headway with getting church ladies to wear hats again,
Yes, thanks, Heather.
can we get closer to preaching with a cigar?
No, and here's why. It's not a matter of whether or not people would be accepting of it. It's a matter of what it would do to the building, because tobacco inside really does cause a lot of issues.
Did Spurgeon ever preach with a cigar, or was this something he just appreciated?
I think that's a good question to ask Jeff next time he's on.
Yeah.
He's on with us. Well, thank you guys for watching the Reverend and the Reprobate podcast. Make sure that you like, subscribe, ding that little bell, and if you haven't already, go check out Christian Nerd HQ so that you can join the network of Christian nerds gathering around the globe to celebrate Christ and nerddom. Make sure that you stay tuned to everything that's happening with Spurgeon Speaks as it gets kicked off on July 1st. Those daily devotionals will come out. Links to all that stuff is in the show notes. Y'all stay hard, keep jamming, and we'll see ya.
This is Jeff Oliver from Spurgeon Speaks, and this is why you should never listen to the Rev and Rep show.